Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Cheers. Yeah, so as Tom said, slight change of plan. I did only find out about this a couple of days ago. So I did spin up a talk that I think you're going to all find valuable. But it is new material, so bear with me. If I miss anything out, I shouldn't do. But I'm Alex, I'm the co-founder and CCO of Campfire. Primarily, we'll help blue chip and legacy brands leverage social to reach new audiences. And what's on offer today is if I could give you one area in your marketing that you could invest into that will create customers that keep coming back again and again, a loyal audience that keeps talking about your brand, have customers give you amazing and innovative ideas for free, create an elevated and engaging customer experience, and bring your brand into the world of social-first marketing that we all live in, would you take it? A community is precisely the way that you can do that. We're probably all a part of one in one way or another. It might be a church that you go to, or it might be a CrossFit class that you're a part of, maybe a book club that you've joined. It's even us at this event today. We're all a part of a physical community in one way or another, and it all affects our lives in a big way. But these don't just exist in the physical space, these exist in digital spaces as well. And in the age of social networks, brands are shifted from broadcasting messages to trying to build these digital online communities. Peloton is a really, really good example of how you can do this. So Peloton have built an amazing community of riders. If you have a Peloton device, you'll know that they'll shout you out if you're doing really well. They've never shouted me out because I don't do that well, but it's fine. 57% of people will increase their spending with that brand when they feel connected to you in that way. And 76% will choose you over their competitors. Glossier are the absolute goats of community building. So they have built their $1.2 billion beauty empire through community buzz and referrals. Every time a loyal fan posts a Glossier makeup look or a new haul, they're basically doing word of mouth marketing on behalf of the brand. And this is amazing because 9 out of 10 consumers will read reviews before they're making their purchase decisions. So community content actually massively influences the products that they're going to purchase. Again, Glossier, they use their community as a focus group. So instead of deciding in amongst themselves and within the company what they should be designing and how they design it, they actually just went out onto their Into the Gloss blog, and asked their customers, what do you prefer? What textures do you like? What product packaging do you like? And they actually ended up taking their moisturizer out of a little jar that they used to sell it into and changed it to a pump dispenser just based on community feedback. So they're using their communities as a free focus group that contains some of their most engaged customers. Starbucks were very, very early on this idea. In 2008, they launched a concept called My Starbucks Idea, where they did the exact same thing. They just pushed out to their audiences, how can we improve our products and our services? And the results resulted in over 300 innovations that they rolled out across every physical space that included things like cake pops, which I love, and free Wi-Fi in stores, which just wasn't a thing before they asked their customers, what should we change about the stores? The outcome there, by the way, is twofold. So you've got better products and customers that feel valued and that feel heard. A strong community keeps the brand constantly in the conversation. Sephora have got an amazing community called the Beauty Insider community that's got over 5.5 million people in it. And they've contributed over 2.7 million posts to this community. They're swapping beauty tips, asking questions, and getting advice in a peer-to-peer environment, making the brand's ecosystem way more than just a store. And 75% of participants that are in these branded communities believe that it improves their customer experience. All of this encourages customers to stick around. Younger audiences especially gravitate towards these kinds of communities. Gen Z in the US actually believe that these communities, the knowledge in these communities is more trustworthy than traditional news sources. So it's no surprise that 76% of internet users are in a community in one way or another. It might be a part of a Reddit group or subreddit, it might be a Facebook group, it might be a TikTok hashtag community, but these communities can even move markets without any brand intervention whatsoever. If you take the community around reading called Book Talk, where users gather together to gush around specific books, they had a huge impact on the publishing industry, with one author even seeing a 661% increase in their book sales after going viral on TikTok. Extra points if you know who that author was. But building a community takes active, innovative engagement. It's not just about posting for the sake of it or pushing generic content. It's about creating a social-first experience that really makes an audience feel like they're shaping their brand alongside you. But a lot of brands struggle to do this, and I do call out a couple here. I'm not saying that they're responsible for this, but you'll see in a second. And I wanted to share an example of these struggles that happen more often than you will believe. Our engagement director at Campfire has quite a large or notable following on Instagram. They are in the skincare space, and they have good reason for people to be reaching out to them, brands asking them to be part of their community. Period pain relief patches, dairy chocolate, and a subscription to a free dating app are all things that our male, married, vegan engagement director, Sean, has been offered as a part of joining someone's community. So it's obviously not great community management there from whoever was in charge of this community building. Building a connection means taking notice of and paying respect to the audience and the ambassadors that are a part of your brand. So today I'm going to share 3 tips that you can use immediately to help building a community around your brand. As an agency, we're often asked for support in building these kinds of communities, and I think that started with our partnership with a brand called the Inky List. This was around 5 years ago now, and we were asked to launch their brand onto the platform TikTok. No one really knew about TikTok at the time, no one really knew best practice, but my co-founder Joe and I and the team at Campfire, we had a good number of years of social knowledge under our belt, and we kind of knew how we were going to do this. We worked with Inky and made them one of the first beauty brands to really leverage the skincare community on TikTok, and because of that, their products literally flew off the shelves. Ultimately, we ended up achieving over 1 billion views on content that featured their products and built a strong community around Inky, around the Inky List brand. And that got the industry talking. Fast forward to today, we're leading the creative strategy and community management for some of the biggest blue chip brands in the world. And that is in part down to our ability to be able to grow and scale these kinds of communities. There's a variety of ways in which we do this, from managing data and insights and deploying creative strategy, offering influencer support. But for the sake of this talk, I'm going to focus on these key areas: data and insights, influencers, and organic social. These are all things that you would have access to yourselves. One example of the way that we've used these things comes from a recent partnership with Nioxin. They're a hair care brand that helps combat things like hair thinning and promotes a healthy scalp. And they wanted us to elevate Nioxin's position as the go-to solution for hair care and hair loss prevention. We aim to do this through building a community by partnering with influencers and by gifting people the product that we believed could be genuine ambassadors for the brand. One of those people was Emily Faye Miller. She's got a podcast called Now We're Talking Baby with over 2 million listeners, who's openly discussed her suffering postpartum hair loss after giving birth last year. Now, for anyone thinking, well, I don't have the budget to be able to partner with a big influencer like that, bear in mind that this was a gift. So this was something that cost us nothing but a time spent researching, looking for the right kinds of ambassadors, and then the price of a first-class postage stamp. Emily ended up talking about her hair loss experience and her hair regrowth experience and organically mentioned Nioxin on her podcast. Now, a podcast's got over 2 million listeners, and if they're listening to this kind of podcast, they might be going through very similar things. So the earned media value for Nioxin there is well over £20,000, which is a great return on investment. And this highlights the value and importance of reacting to influencers and developing more authentic relationships to gifting. So my first takeaway for today is to deeply understand the community around your brand. Take the time to research the people that could be a part of it, invite them to become a part of it, and you might be surprised at the results. My second tip, this is a scary one for anyone that produces their own content or is managing the social media platforms for a brand, but look at the comments, either your own or your competitors. If it's your own, it can be scary because it can be feedback, either positive or negative, on stuff that you've made. But in there you will find community building gold. Because we manage such large campaigns and we have thousands and thousands of comments that we need to assess, we built a tool called Vibe Check that allows us to overlay AI and basically pick out all of the comments that are the most relevant to the brands that we're working with and that are the most helpful to us. But if you've got a smaller brand and you don't really have that many comments to deal with, you can just do this manually. You don't need to use a comment analysis and sentiment analysis software. But when we ran this campaign through VibeCheck, yes, we were seeing a lot of positive reactions to the campaign, but more importantly, we got a really strong breakdown of the consumer's feedback on that campaign and on the product itself. So yes, we saw the positive comments saying like, I want to try Nioxin, I've used Nioxin for years, absolutely love it. But then more importantly, we saw this neutral and negative sentiment around the campaigns. The neutral sentiment is people just asking questions, like things like, what system is going to be best for me? What product should I use for my specific case? And then the negative sentiment are things like rumors that people have heard about Nioxin in the past or experience that they've had. So this is more valuable to us because it creates the opportunity to respond to the concerns around the community. It creates the opportunity to create content that answers the questions that the audience have or address anything like the rumors or experiences that they've had in the past. And as we know, this makes customers feel valued and gives them reason to stick around. Analysis of the comments isn't the only thing that you can do in the comments section. You can also respond to those comments in a meaningful way, which again makes the audience feel valued. My top tips here would be to reply to the first 5 comments in a meaningful way. Don't just put emojis or something. Try and answer in a positive and authentic way. Reply to comments and DMs the same working day if you can. Set daily check-in times in the morning and the afternoon. Maintain a brand voice across all of your comments and DMs. And have a spam control process in place, which can be things like hiding keywords or phrases that you don't want to be present in your comments section. And my final point is to lean into trends that are relevant to your industry. Trends play a really big part in communities on social media, and if you lean into trends, then your community will see your brand as one that is relevant and understands their culture. The problem here, if you're a bigger brand, is that a great place to look for these social trends is on TikTok. And as we know, social moves quick and TikTok can move even quicker. So if you're like a marketing executive working at one of these brands and you spot a trend that you feel like is appropriate, what can end up happening is you go to your manager to pitch this idea, you see a trend, you try to integrate the product, then you might get sign off, then you might go and ask a creator or an influencer to produce the content for you, then you need to get sign off on that again, maybe there's some amends, and by the time you actually get that piece of content out, the audience has moved on and the trend's not cool anymore. To combat this problem, we've designed a tool called Spark. Now, Spark is a trends and analytics tool that allows us to spot trends very early on. It allows us to see the pattern of trends over time and spot when a trend breaks out of a typical life cycle. When that happens, when we're benchmarking these trends against one another and we see one break out of a typical cycle of a trend, we create for our clients what we call a nudge. Now, a nudge is quite a simple one-pager. It describes what the brand is, gives you some context around it, what the trend is, sorry. It explains how you can integrate your product into that trend, and then it gives you an action plan on how we can deal with it. And you can see on that graph, I hope, where we told Garnier about the seaweed hair trend versus its peak in audience interest, which gave us loads of time to be able to deal with the red tape that needs to exist in a lot of different brands. So Garnier hopped on this trend via influencer briefings, and the content ended up gaining over 4.7 million organic views and over 115,000 engagements. So why are trends important? If you look at TikTok and its history, a lot of brands have this issue still. So if you look at TikTok and its history, it used to be Musical.ly, and it was populated by singers and lip syncers, and there was creators like Charli D'Amelio and Addison Rae that had first mover advantage on these platforms and gained hundreds of millions of followers around these dance challenges and lip syncing. And these were the creators that were burned into the minds of CMOs at larger agencies who thought that dance challenges and lip syncing is clearly the way for us to win on TikTok. All we have to do is come up with a dance challenge around our brand, maybe a piece of original music, and we're going to win. But as we know, social moves fast. And as more creators onboarded onto the platform, more people were creating content for niche communities. They were making sketches, advice, makeup tutorials, and these dancers started to fade away from our For You pages. And instead, they were replaced by this new wave of creators that produced content that was more appropriate for niche communities. Unfortunately, there are a few brands that were slow to catch up. Hugo Boss, I hate to call them out, but was one of these brands. They had a really, really famous and well-done partnership with a big creator called KB Lame, but they fell a little bit flat in their mid-funnel ad campaign because they thought, we're just going to create a dance challenge around our products. And the comments ended up being things like, whatever you're selling, I don't want it now. Or I want a refund after watching this TikTok for free. Or due to this ad, I will never buy a product from this company. So the audience were pretty savage on this campaign, but it just goes to show how important it is to pay respect to the community and the trends that are in them at the moment. National Express, unfortunately, suffered a similar fate where even though they jumped on a trend that was very appropriate for their brand, they ended up posting it about a month after its peak in audience interest, and the comments were things like, almost as late as your coaches, or being this late is surprisingly on brand. You contrast that with some work that we've done internally with our creator Rach around the girl math trend in 2024, and the sentiment can speak for itself. If you're in time with these trends and you can integrate products in a positive way, then the audience will respond positively. A final case study around this was originally a video, but it wouldn't play, so we had to take it out. The final case study around this was our work with Vaseline. So I don't know if anyone's aware of the slugging trend, where you basically cover your face in an occlusive moisturizer overnight and then you're glowing in the morning. So we took note of this trend and decided to take over that trend with Vaseline, with influencers and creators. And delivering that bespoke strategy, we were able to deliver 31.3 million views against a target of just 8 million. That achieved an influencer cost per view 75% cheaper than our benchmark. And the amazing thing here was, and it's not listed here, was that other creators that we hadn't paid or hadn't briefed just started joining in on the trend, buying the product to capitalize on the extra views that the trend was creating. So they just wanted to join in on it organically. And that gained us, when we collated all of the views on additional content, an extra 14 million views on this campaign. And then the kicker was, when this was reviewed by a third party, Vaseline had gone from something that you just might find in the bottom of your purse to a trend-setting brand in the eyes of a focus group of some of Vaseline's customers. So my summary for today, the takeaways for creating an engaging community: deeply understand the community around your brand, pay respect to the audience, understand their likes and dislikes, and communicate to them with respect. Dive into, read, and respond responsibly to comments. It's a free focus group that contains some of your most engaged followers. And lean into trends on social. Lean into trends and your community will see your brand as one that's relevant and understands their culture. All of these things will help you to build an active and engaged community around your brand. So hopefully I've managed to convince you to take away these tips and start building a community around your brand today. Thank you.